Manchester United to kick off on the back of Alec Ferguson's choice of his side's best away performance of the season at Elland Road. Their mission today to break down a club that has refused to capitulate to them since their return to the top division. Ipswich have gained those 2 draws at Old Trafford over the past 2 seasons. And back in January of last year, they beat Manchester United here 2-1. A win that took them to 4th in the table. All was sweetness and light here then. But they've won only 11 of 56 league games since that success. And they've really been in something like free fall.
Sorry, man, it's not bad to take it in an important game, though. There aren't many clubs over the last 2 years that can say they're unbeaten against this Manchester United side.
Here's Stockwell. Cut out by Owen, who gives the ball away. And Ryan Giggs wonders why it did come straight to his feet. Parker. Certainly the United players, when they inspected the pitch, came back to get ready for the game with smiles on their faces. And you think the state of some grounds around the country. Trevor Francis, the Sheffield Wednesday manager, taking off Chris Bart-Williams and John Sheridan at Oldham yesterday because he said the pitch was no good, just nullified their skill, and he might have had to more working players to perform on that particular patch. But those 2 players would love to be involved on this pitch. Might just suit the likes of Giggs, but so far Ipswich doing their job well. Early days. Keane. Hughes turning away from Linigan. Keane again. Only Giggs was available for the deep cross, which is why it went in short to Cantona. It breaks for Roy Keane, who hammers it into the side netting.
He got the break, Roy Keane, but John Walk did well. You watch Walk, he sees the 1-2 being played, and had he not come across at that very vital moment, it just stopped Keane's run, and that was Walk using all his experience there.
Just too long for Marshall. For a moment it looked as though Whelan's ball in might have suited the striker.
Well, they're having a pop at each other over that. I'm not so sure why. I actually thought like you, Martin. I think this is a decent ball, and I don't know whether he loses it in the sun, but it certainly doesn't look that high that he couldn't have made an effort for it, Ian Marshall. But he was, should I say, looking into the sun as that ball was played, and he may have just lost it for a second.
That's Keane. Roy Keane came here on the last day of last season. It was his final game for Nottingham Forest, who of course relegated them. Ipswich won their final 2 home games to be sure of staying up a year ago. Now they'd love to win their last 2 games of this season. Marshall carrying the fight to Bruce. It is a free kick. Kiwomya thinking about taking it quickly. He's done that. Johnson was on the same wavelength. Marshall has pulled out to the right. And Schmeichel has fumbled. Kiwomya! Ipswich in front. The side in this desperate position have taken the lead, and Peter Schmeichel, furious with himself, he lost Marshall's shot. Kiwomya, who's been so short of goals, darted in. 1-0 Ipswich. Andy.
Well, you and I sat and watched Peter Schmeichel drop one at Wimbledon, and it was a vital goal. Now, we often talk in football, Martin, about the advantage of going across a goalkeeper, and here it is for all to see. You go across the goalkeeper, there's a chance he'll fumble it, and if you've got a lively striker, alive and alert, he gets the simplest of tap-ins, and that's what's happened. I don't know whether Chris Kiwomya may have been offside earlier in the move. Certainly in the ball out to Marsh, he was coming back from an offside position. The linesman didn't raise his flag, and he was left to tap it in. What a great start.
There's Kanchelski. Ipswich have left 2 up, and they've got 2 of the remainder to try and close Kanchelski's down and force a mistake. Haven't made that mistake yet. Hughes can't get through. Wood can't pass it back, and Forrest is waving his fist. And John Walk, like the good pro he is, I think acknowledged that He just changed his mind and wasn't decisive as he might have been. Bruce. Well, the save was required from Hughes' header.
Plenty of bodies in there, plenty of blue and white shirts, and all marked up. That looked better defending all round. At times last week against Sheffield Wednesday looked all at sea at the back, Martin. No marking of jerseys at all, but that was better from that cross.
Milton. Kiwomya onside. Michael comes. Goalkeeper down. Hurt. Alan Gunn checking. Ball still in play. Has to go out.
Well, he's injured, but I think Chris Kiwomya had every right to make a genuine effort for this. The ball bounces up. They both reach it. In fact, Kiwomya may have reached it slightly ahead of Schmeichel. And he kicks his foot, but here's a goal. Now we look at this. Now, if he goes near post, he probably saves that easily. But because he goes across him, the goalkeeper fumbles it. And Chris Kiwomya has a tap in. And look how disappointed he was.
The same end, of course, where Peter Schmeichel came charging out in his fixture last season. Missed the ball, Kiwomya scored. Ipswich went on to win. Alec Ferguson, fresh memories of that. Well, it's turning out to be quite a story. Many felt that this would be straightforward for Manchester United here. They've already lost a goal, and now they lose their #1 goalkeeper. Alec Ferguson discusses the problem with Martin Edwards. Cantona. With Johnson. Trying to use that channel, and Marshall could have gone on. He'd held off Parker.
Lack of composure, Martin. Lack of composure at a crucial time. He had done the difficult thing, as you say, by shrugging off Paul Parker. Now he's clear. Take a touch on it. Compose yourself and have a look.
You can see what Ipswich, though, are trying to do. Work the position between the full-back and the centre-back on each side of the pitch for the runs of Marshall and Kiwomya, who are both, unlike some strikers, happy going onto the ball, facing the goal.
Oh, exactly. And you know that both full-backs of Manchester United like to push forward, sometimes at the same time. And that does encourage strikers to look down, as we call them, the channels.
Someone's got to take charge here for Ipswich. Whelan was confusing walk. Kanchelskis, Cantona, 1-1. A defensive disaster for Ipswich Town, and they've paid the price.
Well, quite simply, John Watt should have been dealing with this. Phil Whelan's facing his own goal. He should have stepped out the way and let Watt deal with it and clear his lines. But watch this for a quality ball. Absolutely sensational cross from Andriy Kanchelskis. And I dwell on the cross, Martin, because at the end of it, the header's relatively simple. Cantona's not going to miss it. But the admiration goes to the quality, and there he is applauding the cross. And I think rightly so.
Ipswich have got the ball as Linningham went down. Kiwomya. Palmer hits it. Drops for Kiwomya. The flag is up. The flag is up. Kiwomya puts the ball in. The Ipswich supporters haven't noticed the linesman. Alan Gunn has.
I think that's a bad decision. I think that's a bad decision. I'm not saying no one's in an offside position, Martin, but this is all about Chris Kiwomya for me. Flag's not up yet. Look at the linesman. The flag's not up yet. Now it goes up. And Kiwomya hasn't lost possession of that ball. He's taken it through on his own. And that's crucial for me.
Closely at Ipswich's attitude, having lost their lead. Ince came in field. Stockwell covered him, held him up. Hughes, back comes Milton, but it was an angle he really couldn't make a challenge from without giving away the free kick.
Well, he's having plenty of decisions to make, the referee, but I think we'll see from that angle there, he doesn't make contact with the ball, and Simon Milton can have no argument with the referee.
Well, Irwin is there. Cantona is there. Forrest making sure the wall covers his right-hand post. Far post as we look. Cantona takes, and it goes straight to the considerable relief of Craig Forrest. No problem.
Well, he's right. I mean, even I could have saved this because it goes straight down his throat. Right where he's standing, doesn't have to move. Simple task of collecting that.
Kiwomya, so much like his old self now, but that's a pass that was aimed for Milton. It didn't find him. Cantona. Was he clipped by Williams? He thought he was. The referee says no. Oh, if Marshall could have taken that on, he was behind. Bruce Johnson has the shot.
Marshall's was a chance. Don't know whether he was just took his eye off it with Bruce throwing himself in front of it. But had he dragged that on into the space in front of him, I don't think there's an awful lot Paul Parker could have done about it.
Here's Parker. Jelskis trying to get in another telling cross. It's a corner. And this is absolutely crucial for Ipswich, given their lack of morale recently.
They've got
to at least go in level at half-time.
Got to sleep rather, Mark. They allowed the corner to be taken quickly, 2 against no one, really.
Ince. Alistair didn't really appreciate the return pass, which he had to chase after, but he walks the cross in towards Keane, trying to steer it down for Hughes. Great ball juggling there, and very nearly. Well, a remarkable goal at the end of it.
That's more like the Mark Hughes. We say we shouldn't be surprised when he produces anything out of the ordinary. Well, look at this. You think the chance is going 1, 2, sets it up, and had that been bending the other way, it may well have troubled Craig Forrest a lot more. Keane does well here because he just knocks it down. He knows what he's trying to do. The awareness of Hughes again there to create an opening when there didn't seem to be one there.
And the whistle is not for half-time. It's for a decision for Manchester United, which is a free kick. Parker's come across to show an interest in it. Hughes in the D on the edge of the area. Not according to plan for Manchester United, and then Keane catching Palmer, who reacted angrily. And then some of his temper was taken out of him by his boot coming off. Well, Chris Kiwomya has scored here to give Ipswich the lead. He's had another goal disallowed. He was involved in the incident that led to Peter Schmeichel going off, although he was an innocent, really, just going for the same ball as Schmeichel as it bounced up. Eric Cantona equalising from a great cross by Andrei Kanchelskis. Plenty to talk about at half-time. It's 1-1. Ipswich to start the second half. The resources here, we should emphasise, nowhere near those of the big city clubs. But under Alf Ramsey back in the 60s and more recently in Bobby Robson's time, Ipswich have shown that they can meet and beat the best. Supporters remember that. There was a game here between these two clubs back in 1980 when Manchester United lost 6-0 to Ipswich. With Gary Walsh on in goal, Alec Ferguson has only the one option now, whether to bring on Brian McClare or Lee Sharp. Nick Collins might have some news on that. Nick.
Well, just to update you on the injury situation, Gavin Johnson and Peter Schmeichel side by side in the treatment room. Johnson had a huge ice pack on his left leg. They both had precautionary x-rays, but in both cases only severe bruising.
Well, that's good news. Remember last Sunday, Les Ferdinand, we were very concerned about him, and he played yesterday and scored. Manchester United looking for a second here. Giggs! His 17th of the season.
Well, if this is the kind of defending that Ipswich have been doing, Martin, it's no shit. Look at them. They're standing around watching the play. A simple throw-in. Giggs attacks the near post. That's a fine finish, but they just go to sleep. It's really criminal defending. It really is. I think it was Steve Palmer who just walked away from the situation. Full marks to Keane. Bright and alert and produced a good ball, and full marks to Giggs for the finish. But the defending, well, it was pretty poor to say the least.
Cantona called for it across too long.
This is the problem Ipswich have. We talked about it, Mark. It's all right stopping a team of nullifying a side, but as soon as those plans go out the window, as they are at 2-1 now, it's what can they do to get back in it? Do they have the craft? Do they have the quality? Do they have the know-how? Ipswich, I suspect not.
Kanchelskis his wake here.
Wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. And again, you and I talked earlier about Mark Hughes' importance in this type of football, and here's a classic example again. It's a perfect weighted pass outside of the right foot. Kanchelskis doesn't have to break his stride.
Marshall. Romney's cross. Marshall fighting to get there. He does do that under some pressure.
Well, that's the best chance they're going to get, is by absorbing some pressure and managing to win the ball back, and then releasing Kiwomya and Marshall and trying, with their pace, get the better of United at the back. But we can have a look at how they go to sleep, and look at the space that he's got. Now look at Giggs' run. Look at the determination in that run. I mean, he made that ball his own. That was not cut and dried by any stretch of the imagination. He made it his.
Oh, that's a delightful ball for Kanchelskis. Whelan tracking him, as he's tried to do throughout, and he kept pace, and it is a corner.
That's more like the connection. Hughes and Kanchelskis. But Whelan's damaged himself somewhat. But it doesn't look good. He went down very quickly and in some pain here, Phil Whelan. We'll have a look and see what happens here. It looks pretty straightforward there, but you can see he collapses in agony immediately. And they've got problems. They want the stretcher on.
Well, in considerable pain. Phil Whelan leaves proceedings on a stretcher. The game will restart with a Manchester United corner. Ryan Giggs, who scored at the start of the second half to give Manchester United this 2-1 advantage. Bruce going in, and it was very nearly 3-1.
Good save. Right above him, but he had to be instinctive, he had to be alive. But Bruce just walks into this area. Big space for him, gets his left foot to it, and may have been going over, but you can't take a chance if you're in between the sticks. You got to make sure.
Giggs. Still Giggs.
What a cross.
Well, I had to have a second look there, because is it Gary Pallister?
It is.
By the far post.
Pallister played it and carried on running. I'll tell you, Barry Hughes did very well at the back post, because he knew he was not only clear it, he knew he was running very close to the post.
Keane. And who's on the gallop here? Andre Kanchelskis. It wasn't the best of the first touch from him. Hughes. Keane.
Well, again, Mark Hughes, you just have to admire this guy. I mean, we talk about him time and time again. We've talked about him all season, his importance. Look at that, he's surrounded by players. But the touch, it's the layoff, it's the weight on it. It's always, well, I say always, it's 90% of the time when he plays it to his players' advantage. And that one, Roy Keane just had to pull the trigger and let it fly. But he just couldn't keep it down.
Forrest get to that, there's your answer. It's another Manchester United corner.
Well, they've tried it that often, Mickey Stockwell. He's bound to get one wrong eventually.
Been a real fixture here, a great club man who'll feel the pain of relegation perhaps more than some of the others. Giggs takes the corner, if it is to be relegation, of course. Still so many possibilities at the bottom of the table. Down goes Hughes, free kick to United.
play to admire again from Mark Hughes. Winning the ball back before they could clear it and then earning the side a free kick, 25 yards from goal.
Well, we've seen Owen put these away. We've seen Cantona do the same. Owen. Oh. Back for Giggs, off the post. Cantona! Forrest gets onto the ball. And it stays at 2-1 when it was millimetres away from being 3.
Forrest giving this up. Look at the goalkeeper. He thinks that's in. He's about to go and pick it out the net.
Marshall turning, shooting, almost scoring.
Well, it's going to take something like that for them to get back in the game. Look how far away. He uses his body weight here to turn Paul Parker and tries to nick it, and then he just lets fly. And this one, although it's rising, it's beating Walsh all the way. Doesn't get near to it. Look at the quality of the strike. And that's what, 6 inches over the top.
There's been some gallant work at the back from Stockwell and company, but it hasn't been enough. Ipswich tried hard to raise their game, but the hands that raise at the end of the match belong to Manchester United and their fans. Traditionally, the Ipswich supporters run on here when the final whistle goes at the end of the final home game. So Alec Ferguson wants his players safely in the dressing room. Eric Cantona equalised after Chris Kiwomya had given Ipswich the lead and United a scare, and Ryan Giggs, who was later substituted early in the second half after some slack defending. Ipswich culpable really in both goals they conceded. Giggs there for what turned out to be the decisive goal. They can surely start chilling the champagne at Old Trafford. The finishing line is in sight. Ipswich 1, Manchester United 2.